Hey, the plants that you're about to see are all from the Toronto Cactus Show and Sale. This is an event that happens once a year in the summertime. I do think they have other sales throughout the year, but this is kind of the main event where they judge all these really cool specimens. It's honestly so amazing to see some of these mature caudex plants and cacti and succulents. I have tried to put the names on the screen where I can, but to be honest, a lot of these plants are pretty new to me. This was only an event I learned about, I think last year or the year before. I've only been once before to a sale and I got to pick up some really unique succulents there. So I really wanted to go for the main show this year and I was not disappointed. So I really hope you enjoy seeing some of these very artful and mature plants as much as I did. I really think I need to add an adenia to my collection. I really like the Spinosa. I feel like I see the Glauca more often, but the Spinosa was more round. I don't know. I tend to like the plants that are more compact, and this one I really liked for that reason. Gerardanthus, I believe. I was actually looking for if any of the vendors had this plant. Sometimes they'll have, smaller ones, seed-grown ones, but unfortunately I couldn't find one, but that's definitely what I'm adding to my wish list for later. This one you're seeing, I actually did pick up a little one. It actually has really beautiful purple backs to the leaves, which the mature specimen didn't have. So I'm not sure if that's like a light thing or if it's a maturity thing, because obviously some plants do change as they grow. But regardless, at least I got one of these kind of show specimens, if you will, to try and grow out myself, which I am kind of excited about. This Sinningia, I think Belata was flowering as well. Mine is too. It's like flowering up a storm right now, which was cool to see. I think that Sinningia is definitely an underrated genus. So I'm kind of glad there was one there at the show. I was kind of surprised there weren't any leucotrichias. I honestly felt like with a lot of these specimens, it kind of made me want to submit mine at some point. I don't know if I could handle my plants being judged, but honestly, I think some of my specimens are at least as good as some of the ones I saw here, or other people might at least like to see them. So who knows? Maybe one day I will. I'm not local to Toronto, so that makes it a little bit more challenging, but I honestly think there could have been more plants here. Some of the categories only had a few entries or maybe only one. Honestly, I think it would be really cool if this event got more visibility and more entries, because I'm sure there's so many collectors out there that have really, really cool specimens that we normally don't get to see. And I think it's really special to share some of these plants that you've worked hard on to actually turn into a piece of art. Like the way that this, I think, Sedivaria was styled is just beautiful. I think it's a relatively inexpensive succulent. I feel like anyone can do that though with some patience and a little bit of vision. You can do a lot to turn even a simple plant into something extraordinary. Now, this Bursera, I think, was one of the showstoppers of the show with that peeled bark. I don't know how old this tree, well, I'm calling it a tree, would be, but it's obviously been very well taken care of. And this next one that has smooth bark is actually the same plant. It's the same species. It almost looks to me like it had some peeling bark, but it's just been taken off or fallen off. They also get these really cool orange berries and little white flowers, which I feel like just adds another layer of interest to this plant. It was really, really special. I feel like this is one I actually need to add to my wish list. I think even a less mature specimen than these would still be quite beautiful. Now these look like they've been trained and trimmed to give that really nice bonsai feel to them. Overall, they were just really amazing to see, and props to the person who has created those. They're really special. It was also really cool to see one of these ponytail palms at a mature size. I think I had one of these I got from IKEA, and it was one of my first ever plants. My cat would always eat the leaves on the bottom, so it always had like chewed ends. And I don't know what happened to that plant, whether I killed it, but it seemed to do well even when it was pretty badly neglected. So I wonder if we just threw it out or got rid of it at some point when we moved. But now I'm thinking I should have kept it, and who knows how big it could have been today. They're actually quite impressive when they get sizable. I think that's a common theme throughout this show, and these haworthia are a good example as well, because you can pick up some of these for relatively cheap at most garden centers, but once you get these clusters of them, it becomes something really special, and you can only get that with patience. I really like this cluster of Fenestraria as well. I believe these are baby toes, but these are the most beautiful little cluster of baby toes I've ever seen. This is very similar to the way that they grow in their natural environment, where they're mostly buried by the substrate and they only have the little heads peeking out. Mine do not look like that, but it was kind of giving me something to work towards for sure. Okay, now this one, Mestoclemma, had to be another one of my favorites in the show. Look at those tangled roots. I don't know how much training was involved with that, or if it just kind of naturally grew like that and they kind of gradually lowered the substrate to expose the root slash caudex. But that particular plant was just phenomenal. And that one is definitely going on my wish list, because I would love to have a plant like that. I really like the way this euphorbia was styled too over the rock. I'm not a huge fan of crested plants, and I think this was like the crested category, but that particular one, I just kept coming back to it because for that plant and the way it was styled, it just worked. Now this Monsonia, I think I had one at one point, or at least a different species in the same genus, and unfortunately I think it died, which now that I realize it gets those cute pink flowers, I'm a little bit more sad about, but anyways, it happens. I believe I also have this next one, at least a species. I wasn't sure what the species was on this, but Codrastus, I think, is the family. And I think Milbrandiae is the one that I have. I'm not sure if that's what this one is, but that huge caudex plant with those really crazy vines is actually in the cucumber family, I believe. And I had no idea before I went to this show last year that there were so many caudex plants that are in the cucumber family. That was really interesting to learn. One of my favorite things about plants has always been seeing things that I've never seen before and learning things that I've never learned before. And I saw so many plants that were new to me that I've never heard of, that I've never seen on Instagram. That's what I really love about this show. You just get things that are so different. And I learned that I really need to, I think, get into more euphorbia, because the amount of variety in this genus is absolutely crazy. I don't know why I've been avoiding it, to be honest. I think I know that if I start collecting euphorbia, I can basically never stop, because you could have a whole collection of just them, and I'm almost maxed out on space already for my succulents and related plants, so I can't really get into another genus, but I think I might have like one or two So it's like Hoya, it's a very slippery slope once you start. Same thing with agave too, honestly. I think they're really cool. Like I like the one in the back with the curly edges, but yeah, honestly, I just do not have space for those unless I had a spot where I could keep them outside all year round. These flowering cacti as well were absolutely beautiful. I personally have never gotten a cactus to bloom. I think it's really something special when they do bloom. And I would guess that's why they choose this time of year for this cactus show because it is when a lot of things are blooming. Personally, I do not have the patience or the right grow environment to make that happen. Probably if I did get one to flower, I imagine it's like Hoya, where it does become quite addicting. And I think a lot of people who keep cacti kind of look forward to that. You can see the blooms forming on that one. It's really quite a massive and beautiful bloom in comparison to the size of the cactus. Like you wouldn't expect a bloom like that to come from a plant like this that's generally so, I'm going to say, underwhelming and trying to blend in with the environment. I'm sure if you're into cacti, these Ariocarpus will be quite impressive to you. What I know of this genus is that they grow very slowly. I think they're a high risk of poaching because of that. Obviously, I don't think these ones were poached, but just kind of something to be aware of if you're looking to purchase one. And now that I think about it, it does sound quite silly to say that a cactus, these guys grow especially slowly because, I mean, really all cacti grow slowly. So to be known for growing slowly in the cactus community, that's quite something. Like how slow do you have to be to get that reputation? I really liked these ones that had these colorful clumps forming on the top of them. I don't know what the technical name for that is, but I believe the seeds develop in there. I think seeing that, I really appreciate how cacti actually have several different phases that they go through with flowering and seed development. One of the things that I've always had a hard time with cacti is that they always kind of look the same. You don't get that excitement of like getting a new leaf, especially variegated leaves where everyone comes out and it's a bit different. With cactus, for me, it's always felt like they kind of just get bigger and more of the same. And with succulents, I like them because you can see how they react to their environment. They might get more colorful when you give them more light. They're very responsive to the care that you give them. Whereas cacti, I feel like they just kind of stay the same. I'm sure they do get more colorful, some of them in highlight, but it's a little less dramatic. But I think now that I'm seeing like the flowers and the seed pods, I kind of get it. I mean, one, they're amazing because they're so beautiful and geometric. That's definitely something that I do appreciate. And seeing something at size that's maintained that perfect geometric quality, I respect the amount of work and time that it takes to get that. But for me, I feel like if I got flowers out of my cacti, it would just be a lot more rewarding. So those of you who actually grow cacti, I am sorry for not doing them justice in this video and that my knowledge of them is not doing them justice. I'd really be curious to know like why do you grow cacti? Why do you gravitate towards them? What is it that you like about them? Because in the beginning of my plant journey, they were some of the plants I was drawn to, like succulents and cacti, because of the variety of them and how different they all look. But I did, over time, find cacti not very rewarding to grow just because of that lack of change, lack of interest, day over day, year over year. So I'm curious if cacti are your thing, what is it that you love about them? Honestly, I may just be salty because I have a golden barrel cactus that I still had, and I got it when I was at home, and I bought it because it was $60 at a garden center. It seemed like a great price for a cactus that size, so I brought it home. How long ago was that? Was that like 10 years ago now that I've had it? And I'm surprised it just doesn't seem to want to die, but it stabbed me so many times with those sharp spikes. Every year I move it outside for the summer and then bring it inside for the winter. And every time it stabs me, I try my best to avoid repotting it. Like I try and just leave it alone because it's so sharp and it has hurt me so many times. So yeah, that's probably why I don't like cacti, but also I probably shouldn't be hating on cacti on a video about a cactus show because I definitely will get canceled. I did just get a tephro cactus like this though, so I'm making progress. Now these are some of the vendors that were at the show, so all these plants were for sale. I don't think I'm going to be able to identify, well, most of them. And frustratingly, some of the vendors had tags, some of the vendors didn't. Some of the tags were in Chinese, so that was not super helpful to me. But there were a lot of very, very nice specimens available. There were some very nice variegated haworthias, which are what I tend to gravitate towards. I didn't see any that seemed super different from some of the ones I already have, so I didn't pick up any haworthia in particular. Now, this shop is pretty special. This is tiny xerophyte. A lot of the plants may not look like too much right now, but most of them are seed-grown caudiciform plants. So a lot of the plants that were on display, he actually had small versions of those. You kind of had to look up the name, and he was showing me what some of them look like mature, which really helped me to decide like which ones that I wanted. But it was really nice to be able to get those plants and also know that they're not poached either, because unfortunately that is a problem with some of these larger plants. And even if they're not poached, a large plant takes a long time to get to that size, so they tend to be quite expensive. So if you want to just experiment and have the joy of growing it yourself and seeing if you like it, seeing if you can handle the care, I seem to prefer starting with a small one, unless, you know, it's like a perfect specimen that already has everything that I want. I am tempted by some of the euphorbia that have these like long tendrils at the top and like a caudex underneath. So we'll see. I may pick up one of those one day. I'm not sure. All these colorful succulents were nice too. Of course, I didn't pick any. I feel like I'm pretty happy with my like Echeveria collection right now. And I find it really hard to kind of choose in the moment like that. I really need to know what the ID is. And a lot of those names were written in Chinese, which wasn't very helpful to me. Also, there were a lot of people at that table and it was kind of stressful. So none of those kinds of succulents for me today. But honestly, I think I came for some of the weirder plants anyways. I feel like there were a lot of cacti here and I was just not appreciating them properly. I feel like when I went in the past, there were more succulents and conophytums and that kind of a thing. And this time it was very much lots of cacti, which I mean, I should have expected, of course. Now this shop, A Pinch of Earth, A Pinch of Fire, if you haven't gotten any of their pieces already, you are really missing out. They have some of the most beautiful, natural, organic shapes. And the price points are super, super reasonable. So not gonna lie, I went 90% just so I could pick up some pots from them. I think I got 4 this time and I absolutely love them. Now this shop is Hand Plant Club and their plants, their specimens are pristine. They are perfect. If I wanted to drop some money on like a really nice pachypodium, for example, I would go here because They just look phenomenal. Actually, I think I had a small call, but I think I killed it. So probably spending like $200 on a big one is not a good idea. But hey, I can dream. And that is it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.